I do remember, for years before I left Independence Blue Cross, I had been talking about starting my own business. And I remember this because my youngest son, Gabriel, kept saying to me, Mama, do you remember when you used to say that? And I go, I don't remember as much. He goes, Mama used to say it to me all the time. But here's where I was, this is my strategy though. I was inside, and just to give you an example, we started a women's group, and we had 0 again. We always start with 0. And by the time I left, we had over 400 women that were in the group. And I felt that I couldn't leave until I knew people it would be okay. And so I was constantly always being available to people. And even now that I've started my own business, there's not one person that doesn't pick up the call or says, Ginny, what do you need? Like people from like 6, 7 years ago, because I felt like I just had to put things in place. I knew I wanted to leave, but I wasn't sure when. And the other thing that I ran into, just a small technicality, I had just gotten divorced a few years before. So it had been about, let's say, about 4 or 5 years before. And for me, even though I was independent, I had 2 kids in college. One was in New York at Pratt Institute. Go do the math. It's a lot. And then Seton Hall. They're doing fabulous, by the way. And I actually made an obligation to them. And I will tell you, their father also, that we need to get them through school first before I could leave corporate America, because that was stability for me. That was a choice. So I had to suck it up until I could go off. And as soon as my youngest graduated, I was like moving. And I sold the house in Morristown, New Jersey. I moved into Broomall. My finances, it gave me a lot of flexibility. And so it was all about like the moment. So I'd been thinking about it for a long time, but I couldn't, so I needed a little bit more stability. And it was really about the kids. It was about the kids making sure, and that was what I did. Now, I'm not saying everybody else should do that, but for me, that was really important because they'd gone through so much with the divorce that I couldn't disrupt them again and take them out of school or something.
I'm going to pause there because that is resonating with me. Oh. Patty, I know. Margaret, Megan. So for the gentleman in the room, there is this thing that prevents us from taking the risk and throwing the pen down and saying it's time. And so we can't yet. We wait. Right. And that's a real thing. Yes. And so that's where I appreciate the differences between our male counterparts and us and how we choose to do things, and sometimes the pain that we go through and having to get kicked in the teeth a few times in that corporate space and being a political animal and having to suck it up when we don't really want to and being mistreated in the corporate space because you're a single mom. Sometimes there's targeting. They kind of know you have some weak spots, so they take you on trips and you can't go because you've got to find childcare. And so that's a real thing.
It is. It is. I actually, from the world, I hid when I was going through my divorce. I actually hid it for a year.
I did too.
A year.
Because, did you hide it because you thought it would make you seem weak to people, or that they would know that you had something going on that they could? Yes. Yeah, I did too. I didn't say a word. Nobody knew. Nope. Nobody knew if I was married, divorced, dating anybody, had a kid, not a kid. Didn't know. Kept it totally tight.
And that's really hard. So you probably noticed from both of us, and you know her better, my book is called Unspoken, Finding Your Voice and Living Your Authentic Life. And I wrote that not because of my divorce, but the divorce opened my eyes up to something around authenticity and then the corporate America. And so for me, not being able to be myself, I've always been myself. But when you get into corporate, you play the role that you're supposed to be in. And as much as you want to be yourself, I wasn't able to do that. Now, what I'm teaching the young women today and the women coming through who are even in their latter part of their careers, be yourself. You know why? Because you're stronger, you will be more productive, you will be more engaging, and your team will love you because they'll be like, oh my God, I'm so confused, but they'll trust you. And when you get trust in a relationship, in your personal and professional life, things get better. But it's hard though. It really is. It's just really hard.